Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a calm conversation meant to help you relax, drift off, and who knows, maybe find your way to sleep. As always, we hope you never get to the end of our episodes, and if you do, well, thank you for staying with us. We hope it at least takes your mind off whatever is keeping you up. I am your host, Marco Timpano.
I'm Amanda Barker. I'm back with you.
Amanda, I just read on our friends' Facebook how flowers remind them of a certain person in their lives, and I was reflecting on that, how flowers do remind me of certain people in my life, and because we've been walking around, we've been seeing the spring flowers as they start to appear, and it is particularly cold, gray spring that we're having here in this part of the world, and the one thing that I appreciate from a cold gray spring is that the tulips stay longer, and we have some beautiful tulips popping up in our front.
Yeah, it's almost like the world is a flower refrigerator right now, where it can kind of keep things fresher a little bit longer. And we have years and years and years ago, I planted some white tulips, but they always come up sort of pale yellow and get whiter as they age, which is kind of fun. So right now they're kind of like that creamy yellow color.
And we had an interesting thing happen on our property. I make it sound like we have a huge property, and it's just a house in the city with a postage stamp front. But some of the city workers came and did work in front of our home.
That's right.
And they dug up our front because we happen to have a fire hydrant on it. And so they dug up all our bulbs and just threw the dirt wherever. And so now what's happening is all our bulbs, all our tulips and spring flowers are popping up in places we didn't plant them.
Yeah, we've got a daffodil that's sort of
By
right
itself.
on the edge, in the middle of a bunch of tulips, kind of going, guys, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm trying my best. And the peonies seem largely untouched, so that's good, because they've had some stressful springs.
The peonies, speaking of flowers that remind people of others, we have my mother's peonies from when she sold her home and moved into a condo, and I planted some of those, and I believe there's some of my grandmother's peonies. And as you know, if you've listened to episodes, peonies is the podcast flower, or the national flower of this podcast.
Oh, is it really?
We
have a patron flower?
Patron flower,
peony?
yeah, because I talk about the peonies so much, because I love that flower, because it reminds me of my grandmother, and I love that it requires ants to help open up its blooms, and I love how it comes from nothing. Like there's nothing to indicate that a peonies is there, and then all of a sudden in spring, these dark red shoots spring up. And
they don't look because a peony sort of bush does not look at all like the shoot. The shoot looks like a red asparagus.
Yeah, but there's nothing there at the end of the season. Like there's nothing. It's just flat ground.
But they come up, they bush up. They're really a magnificent plant.
And they get big and bold.
And the blooms get huge. You know, we know them mostly as a tight sort of ball, delicate, dainty ball. But once they open, with the help of the ants, they get so full and huge.
Yeah.
Almost too huge, like a blown out rose or something.
It's true.
Yeah, but what flower reminds you of me? Is that a hard question?
It's yes and no. I know you love flowers, so you love all flowers. I know that the yellow rose reminds you of your grandmother, and so I'm aware of that if I buy roses, that a yellow rose is something you love. I know that you like tulips. Tulips are one of your favorite flowers, and
they were my bouquet, my wedding bouquet, and we used a lot of tulips at our wedding because it was May. We had a May wedding, and I love tulips, and I just think they're so elegant and graceful and simple and pretty. So I still love them quite a bit.
I'm just trying to think.
I don't know. I don't have an answer myself. I just was curious.
Here's the thing. I know that tropical flowers aren't necessarily your thing. So you're not one who goes, if I bring home orchids.
I love orchids.
Oh, okay. You love orchids?
Yeah, I love orchids. I just can't care for them. Like I'm not one of those people that can keep, you get the $20 orchid from the grocery store and then it blooms next year and the year after. But I would attribute that more to the light in our house and lack thereof than my own orchid skills. But no, I love orchids.
I don't picture you as an orchid person.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
I don't think, when I look at an orchid, I don't think this is Amanda's favorite flower.
Interesting.
Oh no, I think I'm in trouble. But I
Better
know
buy
that
me some orchids.
I know that certain colorful flowers. I think of you if I was to get a bouquet, it would be of colorful flowers.
But I love tropical flowers too.
Okay, good to
Okay.
know. I'll write
Wow,
that down.
good to
What's
know.
my favorite flowers?
Well, you just said about the peony, but you love hibiscus. Yes, you do.
I like hibiscus flowers ornamentally, but I'm not like, get me a bouquet of hibiscus.
And anthurium? You love
yeah,
anthurium.
those are my favorite. The anthuriums. Yeah. Okay, so you know my favorite flowers.
Anyway.
What is your favorite flower? So I know, and I have a record of it.
I don't know that I have a favorite. I mean, I love a peony.
Mm-hmm.
I do love an orchid, despite the controversy that we've
There's no
uncovered.
controversy. Word on the street is orchids aren't your favorite.
Tulips, I love. Dahlias, I love. I love roses, but they're thorny, right? They're hard to. Roses are hard to work. You know, you buy them and they're beautiful, but to propagate them, and they always come out a little leggy and a little thorny and a little. So they're hard to make work.
If you want nice roses, you have to really care for your roses and give them the attention that they need.
Listen, I love a ranunculus. Is it a ranuncula? Two ranunculus.
Which ones are those again?
They're very tightly wound. They look like daisies with a lot going on. I don't know, not daisies. They're like a rose, but with stamens in the middle that look like daisies.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Yeah. So ranunculus is beautiful.
Now, the flower that reminds me of your mom,
Oh.
speaking of flowers that remind you of people, is the bird of paradise.
Right. Well, because my mother has a bird of paradise plant in front of her house, and she put fake ones in it because she couldn't get them to bloom, and now they finally bloomed. So she just threw in some fake ones.
And I love seeing them
in the plant, like fake blooms.
I love seeing both the fake and often now the most recent times we've seen your mom in Florida, they've been real, and it's just so striking to see.
Gorgeous. My mom is wonderful with flowers, and her Facebook, if you ever want just some fun flower content, you can go onto her Valerie Barker's Facebook, and she'll just post
pictures of flowers.
She does it like she cuts bouquets from her garden weekly, and then she'll post the picture of the bouquet.
So what are some flowers that remind you of people?
Definitely yellow roses from my grandmother, and from my mother, peach roses.
Oh, peach. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your color then? If yellow is your grandmother and peach is your mom.
I don't know. What do I get? I don't know. Purple roses? Or...
Purple.
Okay.
Yeah. Purple roses?
I think, all right.
No, you pick whatever color you want.
I don't know. Maybe purple.
Purple. Okay, good to know.
Maybe. I like white roses too.
Mm-hmm.
I like white flowers. I don't know. I'd have to think about what my signature rose or signature flower is. I don't like them when they're multicolored.
Okay, yeah.
When they put them in dye
Sure.
and they're like a million colors. It's a fun effect, but
that's not for you.
Probably good for a little kid's birthday cake or something, but I don't love the look of them so much. Yeah, I don't know. I have to think.
Sure.
So I guess I know you. So you like tropical stuff.
I do like tropical flowers. I think because when I was a kid, I would watch Fantasy Island, which was a television program, and they would always have these tropicals, including the anthurium. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what that flower is, it's the one that has the waxy red teardrop-shaped leaf, I guess, with the white stamen that sticks out. Or yellow.
Yeah.
So it's a very striking flower.
Yeah.
And they always used to have those in the opening of Fantasy Island. And because
they're very tropical flower, yeah. Very hardy.
Yeah.
Succulent, really.
And no, I don't think they're succulent.
No?
No.
Okay.
And because we lived in Canada, we never saw those flowers back in the day. But, recently, in the last 25 years, they've appeared more and more in our in our availability at florist shops and whatnot. So I've seen them, but they've always been a flower that I've always been like, wow, that flower is fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think. I mean, I've timed my garden. I think we've talked about this so that each couple of weeks something will bloom.
Yeah.
I don't have much there, but it's like we go crocuses, then daffodils, then tulips. although they sort of seem to be in tandem this year.
Mm-hmm.
Then we kind of get into the peonies and then into the
Lavender.
lilies, the tiger lilies, the irises.
No, what's it called? What's that tree we have in front? Not lavender.
Oh, the lilacs.
Lilacs. Yeah.
Gosh, you know what? Those lilacs might be my favorite.
That's what I think. And
yeah, I forgot about lilacs. I take it all back. Lilacs are my favorite flower.
Yeah, I would say so.
I like magnolias too.
It's funny. I saw a beautiful magnolia tree when I was driving around the city on the Vespa the other day, and the right now it's beautiful because the magnolias are just kind of
they're so perfect right now. They're so delicate too. They don't last very long. God, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
Same with lilacs.
Our lilac tree every year. This woman in the neighborhood who I don't see any other time of the year comes by and asks us to clip some lilacs for her off our tree because it reminds her.
Request denied.
No, we've
not taking my lilacs, lady.
We've given it to her in the past.
We have, yeah.
It reminds her of. I think she's German, and I think it reminds her of when she was a child in Germany. Although last year I don't think I
didn't see her last year.
She came by, and I think I was like, I don't have time right now to clip the lilacs, and I didn't see her.
You know what? The thing is, our lilac, what was once a humble lilac bush, is now very much a tree. And it goes to the second floor. And the easiest place to get them is to actually, if you can open that window, pop the screen out, I guess, open that window, and then reach over and grab the branches and cut some of those from the top up. It's probably the best place to do it for the plant in some ways too. But that's probably the best place to get your lilacs.
If she comes by this year, I'll make sure to do that.
I love clipping them and putting them in my silver water pitcher. I love doing that, but they don't last very long. You get a day or two out of them, and that's it.
And
if you're lucky.
They're so floral and lovely smelling.
They smell so beautiful, yeah.
Do you remember we were driving through an area that had orange orchards around the time that their flowers were blooming, and it just had a smell of orange throughout the drive.
In Florida?
Yes, it was most definitely in Florida, yeah.
Beautiful. Cherry blossoms are gorgeous too, of course. When I lived in Asia, we had cherry blossoms everywhere. They're gorgeous.
Is there a flower that reminds you of your sister?
Yeah. My sister is really a daffodil kind of gal.
Oh, really?
I think. She would say tulip, but to me, she's more of a daffodil. She always loved yellow, and there's something very hardy and here I am about the daffodil.
Okay.
And so I always think of her with daffodils, but bright. She loves bright primary colors. She never really loved anything in a pale color. She likes bright reds and yellows and blues. Those are her colors, bright red and bright yellow. So I always think of her with like a bright red tulip or a bright yellow daffodil.
Oh, that's neat.
And your mom loves daisies, doesn't she?
She does, but the flower that reminds me of my mom are lily of the valley flowers, those little tiny ones.
Oh, really? Why?
Because it's her birth month flower, which is May.
Uh-huh.
And I had never seen them before. Because they're an odd flower, because they're really tiny and small and low to the ground, and they're just like little bells, white bells.
Yeah, they're pretty.
And then we happened to have a bunch on our cottage property, and my mother had told me those are lily of the valleys, and I was like, oh, I had no idea. And for some reason now I always associate them with my mom.
I know what flower I think of when I think of you. Trilliums.
Oh, yes, I love trilliums.
You love trilliums.
I love seeing trilliums.
And I'll be honest, I love lady slippers, which are a type of orchid.
Which I never see anywhere.
Yeah, they're very rare.
Yeah.
And growing up in Massachusetts, we lived, there's a big hill with a little pond behind our house. And along the pond, there were lady slippers.
Wow.
So, and I knew that they were rare, same as the trillium is, although maybe less so now. But so we weren't allowed to cut them. We just had to let them grow. But oh my gosh, I loved those lady slippers. I love them so much. So yeah, lady slippers are among my favorite because they're so precious. Pink. They're like a pink orchid.
Oh, wow. I started by saying a friend's Facebook post, but I saw a Twitter post once that said, men never talk about the flowers they love. They're never asked about flowers they love. And so this person on Twitter said, I'd like to ask all the men out there, what are their favorite flowers? Because, it's often associated with gifts you would give women.
That's a very good point.
And so lately I've been asking my male friends, what are their favorite flowers to find out what they love.
And what have you found out?
I can't remember all. I've only asked Trevor, really.
And what is Trevor's favorite?
Trevor's favorite flower.
I can text him.
Yeah, text him because I can't remember. But I remember talking with my male friend about flowers, and it was a really lovely conversation because you don't often get to speak to men about flowers that they love. So if you're with us at this point in the podcast and not falling asleep, I
I don't want to message him because I'm too afraid it'll be like I'm buying him flowers.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Might get weird.
We don't want to give him the bum steer, as we like to. I want to say his was poppies.
Yeah,
Poppies.
I think he likes
it was
a poppy.
poppies.
Yeah,
I think it
very
was poppies.
Canadian flower.
Mm-hmm. No, poppies is you find them everywhere.
You'd certainly find them everywhere. I just always associate them with Remembrance Day, which I guess again is British, really.
Right.
But you know what it is for me? I never really experienced poppies the way I experienced them in Canada.
Fair enough.
I think
That's fair.
you hear about them and see them, and of course we wear the little poppy emblem every year. So for me, there's a real Canadian connection with that.
Now, are there any flowers you associate with friends or people? Like, for example, I will always associate the dahlia with Amanda's friend, Michelle.
It's true.
It's funny how that happens. It's like I associate this flower with this particular person who is your good friend.
So she, for her wedding, she was married, I believe, in like late August. She wanted black dahlias. Her wedding color was black. She had a beautiful and simple wedding, and so they wanted black dahlias, and so they're not the easiest flower to get, and they cut them and put them in sort of little bowls on each table. They were very pretty and it was a very elegant, simple, nice touch. And a black dahlia is really a very dark magenta.
Yeah, it's like a red, like a deep maroon red magenta
like
type
it can
color.
look dark if the hue is rich enough, but generally speaking, a black dahlia looks more like a magenta-y red kind of color, but beautiful anyway. And it's true. I always associate dahlias with her too.
I love asking children what their favorite flowers are because they haven't sort of been convinced by the hallmark and florist industry of what flowers are esteemed, like, the rose being high up on that hierarchy.
Right. When we were kids, carnations, everybody gave everybody carnations, remember?
Right.
Like the 80s was like the carnation decade.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really see them. They don't get the love that maybe they should.
They really don't.
Yeah.
Carnations are really I love irises. I do like irises.
Irises are beautiful, yeah. My mom loves gladiolas too, those big, huge.
Oh, yeah, that's
like a real July flower.
That's Australia's national flower.
Is it really a gladiola? Wow.
And gladiolas do nothing for me. Like they don't, I don't know, they just seem like a flower that doesn't do anything for me. Mm-hmm. And what was I going to say? I love irises, I started saying.
It's funny that you don't associate me with the orchids because before I knew you, I had a green fake orchid that I would wear in my hair.
You did?
I did. Not on the reg, but not regular, but
right.
Every now and then if I was getting dressed up, like I think I wore it to a wedding or two, I had this like clip I bought it at this really sort of funky store called Peach Berserk, I think it was called, and which is a well-known sort of funky store that made dresses and things in Toronto. And I would wear it as a little clip in my hair, this green orchid. I loved that clip.
Well, it doesn't sound nice at all. Was it nice or was it?
I thought it was. I guess, I don't know.
Fake orchid in your hair?
I don't know. It was 2005. I don't know.
Okay, but I will say this. You know which one of your friends reminds me of, or who fake flowers remind me of? Is our good friend, or your good friend, and my good friend now, Lois.
Yeah, Lois is very, very highly allergic and sensitive to flowers, any flowers. The poor girl, I remember once she was taking echinacea and didn't know, and whenever she would feel a cold coming on, people would be like, oh, you should take echinacea. It's great for your immune system. So she would, and she'd be like, it never does anything. And then finally I said, oh, that's echinacea. We were walking by, and if you don't know what echinacea looks like, it's usually like a big purple daisy, and but very big. And so she looked and said, that's echinacea? Oh, no wonder. I'm super allergic to that flower. So she was making herself allergic. So for her wedding, she couldn't have any scents at all. Asked people not to wear perfume.
That's right.
Or cologne, and because, and I've been with her in functions where everyone's covered in scents. She will never stop sneezing, and if you're in a show or something, it can be disruptive. So she asked everybody not to wear scents, and so she had fake flowers because she wanted to have bouquets, and they had a Superman themed wedding. They were really into Superman, and so the colors were the red, yellow,
and blue.
Same as I think of as my sister, those bright primary colors. And so she had silk flowers, silk roses in those colors, and we made bouquets ahead of time, and we put crystals in them.
Yeah.
So we did this thing with, like, you threaded the crystal through a wire, and then you twist up the wire, and so your bouquet of roses also is dotted with all these beautiful crystals. It was really beautiful.
It was really beautiful. It was really beautiful. Anyways, I think of Lois. And there's a flower I really want to see, which I haven't seen yet. Pardon me.
Okay.
The corpse flower.
Oh.
It's the world's tallest and largest flower. It's like 5 feet tall. Mm-hmm. And it blooms every 5 to 10 years. Like, it doesn't bloom often, but it's massive. And the interesting thing about the corpse flower is when it's in bloom, it smells like rotting flesh. And that's how it gets its pollinators, which are flies, to land on it and help propagate it, right?
Wow.
But they'll only be in certain greenhouses that, like what do you call those greenhouses for the public? It's not called a greenhouse. It's like an
Arboretum?
Arboretums and botanical societies will have them, so you don't find them everywhere.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a huge demand.
But one had bloomed a couple of years in Toronto, and I didn't get a chance to see it a couple of years ago, rather. And this year in Ithaca, one just bloomed.
Oh, really?
In New York.
Wow, that is rare. Do you want to go to Ithaca?
I think it's too late. You only have like a week.
Oh, wow.
And I saw it on the channel that we watch sometimes.
You should have told me we could go see this flower.
I know, but I didn't think at the time.
If we're going to do a road trip to anywhere,
yeah.
Let's do one to go see a flower.
Yeah, we should.
Why not?
That would be really lovely.
Yeah.
So if you happen to see or hear of a blooming corpse flower, let's go see it.
Okay. I'll keep my eyes and ears. I'll put a Google alert for corpse flowers.
Now, are there flowers that you don't love, Amanda? Clearly you love the orchid, which I thought you didn't like.
I do love an orchid. I didn't want roses at our wedding just because I found them, I don't know, too normal.
But you do like roses.
Yeah, who doesn't love a rose?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm asking, is there a flower that you're like, meh?
I think for me, the only one that I'd like to get behind are carnations, because I feel like carnations, but that said, I remember when I was a little kid, I got, for my birthday one year, I got an ice cream sundae glass, and it was on the top was filled with beautiful pink carnations. And then there was a little bear and it was obviously meant for a little girl, bear and a balloon thing saying happy birthday. So I'll always remember that. So I had like sort of this sweet memory of the fullness of pink carnations. Yeah, so that's the only one that I'm sometimes wishy-washy about, carnations. But even I think carnations can have their place in the sun, so to speak. How about you?
Well, it's a great question. You know which ones I don't love? You see them a lot at grocery stores. They sell them, and they're kind of bell-shaped, and they're like purpley or pinky.
Might be stephanotis.
No, it's not stephanotis. They're kind of larger.
Bluebells, maybe?
They're kind of like bell-ish.
Okay.
And and sometimes they have like little dark lines on them.
Sometimes that's just a different kind of iris.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a very common.
Yeah, they're filler almost.
They're filler.
Anything that's filler, like baby's breath, I don't have,
Those filler flowers
Yeah.
do nothing for me.
Yeah.
And you know which other one I'm not a huge fan of? It's the one that they have to use. It's like a daisy, and they have to put a straw in it because otherwise
That's a daisy. That's a Gerbera daisy.
Yeah.
You don't care for them?
I don't like those. If you have to put a straw for it to stay rigid,
they don't do that always, but yeah, I hear you.
I don't have time for that flower. I really don't.
Gerbera daisies, they were so popular.
Yeah.
My sister had them at her wedding.
I thought they were Gerber daisies.
I think they're called both.
Oh, okay.
Gerbera, Gerbera.
Even the name I don't
The
love.
thing with flowers that's interesting is they do all have these different names, right? Like like I know chrysanthemums as mums. I always just know them as mums.
Sure.
But they're actually called chrysanthemums, right? And there's many different kinds of chrysanthemums. But I always think of chrysanthemum as a different flower than a mum. So yeah, flowers, there's so many different names sometimes for the same thing. You have the genus name, and then you have the sort of civilian layperson's name of things. My mom is amazing with flower names.
I'm going to ask you something to think about and we're going to be ending very shortly. So I want you to think of a flower that reminds you of a place. We talked about flowers that remind you of people, but
Sure.
is there a place that you associate with a flower? And just recently, while you're thinking, there's that flower that we bought at a nursery that really turned out to be a wonderful flower that we planted in the back of the cottage that was kind of purpley. What is that flower? Is it an aster? Is it a...
Oh, I don't know.
My mom said we have to dig out the bulbs and keep them, and you're like, no, you can keep them planted.
It was actually a purple dahlia.
Oh, it was a dahlia. It was a purple
it was
dahlia.
a different kind of dahlia than the kind you see in August. There was smaller dahlia, but I'm pretty sure that's what you're talking about.
Those were really pretty, yeah.
So for me, the number one flower that I think of when I associate it to a place is the plumeria with Hawaii.
Okay, yes.
They're everywhere. You can buy plumeria and put them in your hair. The leis are not usually plumeria. They're usually made with orchids, but I could be wrong there. But plumeria scent the islands of Hawaii.
Sure.
They're everywhere. You see them as soon as you get off. They are they're that white flower that has sort of a yellow inside, almost like the leaves have been highlighted or outlined in light yellow. But they're white, just beautiful white flowers, and you see them everywhere. So that, to me, is the flower that I first associate with that place. How about you?
For me, it's either when we're in the Maritimes, the lupins.
Oh, yeah, the lupins in the Maritimes.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere, and you don't see them anywhere else, but they're purple and pink and white. They're beautiful.
And we tried to grow some lupins that you brought back when you were in the Maritimes, and they were like, nope.
Yeah, the lupins are out probably soon.
They're like, I don't like
They're
it here.
Spring flower, yeah.
I don't want to be
They're
here.
Gorgeous.
But in the Maritimes, and I would say roses in England.
Yeah.
I've never seen roses as beautiful growing anywhere as I have when we were in England.
I think roses need a moody climate. They're a moody flower, and they need a bit of fog. They don't need that direct sunlight.
Right.
And the reason they get leggy and weedy and thorny other places because they're being grown in direct sun.
Yeah.
And really they need something. They kind of need to be left alone. They're the kind of antisocial creatures to be beautiful.
And to be honest with you, when I think of beautiful flowers, I think of England. I think of like their gardens are gorgeous.
Their gardens are gorgeous.
They just know how to grow them, and they have beautiful gardens and whatnot.
And yet a traditional English garden, so to speak, is not your thing.
No, I prefer a more...
You don't like take a can of seeds and shake it and see what comes up. That's not your thing.
No, but I don't think that's how the Brits do their garden.
I don't think it is
takes a can of seeds and shakes it.
Well,
and makes
me in high school.
Okay, fair enough. But I do like a French garden too.
What is a French garden? I don't know what that means.
It's just like lavender and things that are a little bit
What would
more...
an Italian garden be?
Oregano, basil.
Well, now we're talking just farm and herbs. Now it's just talking like dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of dinner, wherever you are, we hope you have a lovely meal, or you wake up to a lovely meal tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening to this particular show about flowers and people they remind you of. Until the next time, we hope you were able to listen, enjoy the sniff of a flower, and sleep.